Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company, Tape Armor, and Rolls Gear. And you can find all of our old episodes. You can buy shirts and patches at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and we had Ben Moore on the show. Now, Ben is not only a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but he's also a man who travels and deals with beer, which I think is absolutely amazing. You know, he knows beer, understands it, blogs about it, takes amazing pictures with beer. So I hope you guys really enjoy this episode. And like I said, check us out on bjjshow.com. Subscribe to us. Tell your friends about us. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and get into the group on, the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show Facebook group where you can chat with us. So we hope you guys like this episode.
I am not on any time constraints either, so. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll probably we'll see where the conversation goes, like I said, but.
Okay.
Is everybody still experiencing that weird, like I said earlier, that weird between Christmas and New Year's type, what do you do with your day type situation?
Yeah, especially working for yourself is like weird. Like nobody hires photographers right now.
Yeah.
So I'm like extra. I don't know what I'm doing.
Spending time at Bissell Brothers, I imagine. Like I said, not a bad thing at all.
No, these guys have a great tasting room and excellent Wi-Fi, so good extra office for me.
Now, was that the one in Portland that we went to?
Yeah,
the big one? Yeah.
The one on Thompson's Point.
That was a good time, man. I had a really good time out there. And I think
a lot of fun.
I was going to say Randy is definitely going to be excited about this since Ben is an expert in beers.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited about it for sure. Jiu-Jitsu and beer, two of the best things ever created.
Oh, yeah. I want to start a podcast one day and call it The Bar Mat.
Ooh.
Nice.
I like that. I don't know. You want us to bleep that part out so nobody steals your idea and we don't have to like show up and just beat them with sticks?
Oh, I already created the Instagram, the Facebook page. I haven't bought the URL yet, so I think that's the only thing I'm afraid of, but it should be fine.
Yeah, it should be okay. I was going to say that. I don't mind driving around and hitting people with sticks over stealing, intellectual properties. So,
yeah, I mean, if somebody takes it, man, roll with it, and I'll just think of something else.
Word. And on that note, speaking of stealing intellectual properties, this is the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
And today we have a very special guest on the podcast with us. We have renowned beer connoisseur and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt Ben Moore on the show. So Ben, how's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Really excited to get you on the show. So before we get really just into any conversation, how about you give our listeners kind of a background on your jiu-jitsu, like how you got started with it, and go from there?
Yeah, for sure. So I have to think back now. So I started doing martial arts in general when I was like 10 or 11 in Portland at a location called Che Institute, spelled CHOI.
Yeah.
And my dad was doing it. It was kind of like a father-son thing. And years later, I did it for a couple of years, got like I want to say an orange belt maybe. And a couple of years later, fast forward, I'm like 17, and my dad goes, "Hey man, we should try something else." And I go, "Yeah, sure." It's been years since we've done anything really physical, and I just did wrestling season for the first time in high school. So I'm like, "Yeah, let's try Che's again." It's like, okay, so we go to Che's, and at that time, unfortunately, Master Che passed away, but Alexi was just starting to teach jiu-jitsu at that point in Che's. He just moved to America. He was about a year or two into his American residency here, and I have never heard of jiu-jitsu, and so was my dad. Never heard of it, so we're like, yeah, let's try it. And it was, Alexi was very hospitable and kind of a jokester, if you will, sometimes, and kind of brings the room to a nice, approachable vibe, even though you're doing a combat sport essentially. And I fell in love with it right away and been doing it ever since.
Very nice. And it was fairly recently that you got your black belt, wasn't it?
June of this year,
Yeah.
so about 6 months ago.
So real late on the congrats there. So congratulations on your promotion.
Yeah, big time.
Oh, thank you guys. I tell people I'm the white belt of black belts right now.
Does it feel like legit, like being a white belt? Because I don't think we've really asked anybody that question. Like when you hit that black belt, like what's the feeling like as far as where you stand with jiu-jitsu?
Your whole set of goals change, and your whole mentality, I think, changes about your advancement, because up until then, belts are achieved through whatever means your instructor it deems it so, right? Either through competition or the amount of classes, or a combination of a billion different things that whoever's promoting you kind of decides what their criteria of giving you a blue belt or a purple belt or a brown belt. But then I think as soon as you get a black belt, you kind of look at everybody else who's a black belt and you're like, oh, there's no other color for like 30 years. So like, I guess the color doesn't matter anymore. It's not going to change. And like your whole perspective just changes in an instant of like, who cares about being the best? It's now about like being your best more than anything at this point.
Right.
Because you're not trying to prove anybody anything anymore. Like when you're a brown belt, you're like, I want to beat some of those black belts so I can maybe, I feel like I'm at that level where I could get a black belt sooner. Same thing with the other belts, but at a black belt level, you're like, okay, it's just about me now, and that's it.
That's interesting.
And then helping other people. So that becomes a real reality of like people look at you differently and approach you differently in class, where they will kind of now, they'll call you professor sometimes, or they'll say sir, and I'm like, oh man, like I guess that's legit now. Like I can't tell you no. Like it's so weird to me because all I'm trying to do is help, and they're like, yeah, okay, and they're like, they take you so seriously because you're a black belt now, and like you kind of have that weight on your shoulders to step up with legit information and coaching ability.
There definitely is I think a lot of people do step into that coaching role a little earlier than black belt, but now that like you said, you have that weight on your shoulders.
Yeah.
You don't want to like steer them in the wrong direction. That does sound kind of like a lot, like a whole bunch. Because I'm so used to also saying like, don't call me professor, man. I'm just Rob. Like I just like doing jiu-jitsu like anybody else.
Yeah, and especially when you're visiting another school, they don't know your background. They don't know really who you are. So they'll call you professor if you're a black belt. And it's like, it kind of freaks me out because I'm like, I guess I am, I suppose. And I'm not going to tell you no, but gosh, that's really weird because like in my mind, I still have a long way to go. And because, you always put yourself lower on the pedestal than other people because maybe other people don't know who or what you've ever done.
True.
You don't feel like there's, because you get this with other belts as you progress up the ranks. It seems like you get a bigger set of crosshairs painted on your back the further up the chain you go. So at black belt, you don't feel like there's a bunch of people gunning for you, trying to prove their worth through you, especially being a newer black belt.
Yeah, but I think your own pride it's a mix, right? So again, there's nothing to achieve at all anymore in black belt. In terms of the belt rank, other than the time that's measured in the stripes at that point afterwards. But if people are going for your head, it's like, okay, like go for my head. Like, cool, if you tap me, great. Like, I hope you learned something from tapping me. Like, right. I'm not gonna overexert myself to the point where I can't train the next day or something in order to not get tapped. Like, you think more about the long game than you do the short game. So it's like, I don't care if you tap me. Like if I could legitimately not get out of the position in a brown belt or a really good purple belt or even a really athletic blue belt, whatever, taps me, I'm like, well, shoot, that sucks. Like, I should have done better, whatever. Like I got another 30 years, who cares? Where they're like, they want that next belt, they're kind of like, oh, I want to use you as a proving ground, but there's nothing to prove after black. It's really a weird mentality.
Very cool. Well, it's a good philosophy and kind of, I guess, just outlook on life to have anyways. instead of like having pouty face when, like you said, even a really athletic blue belt kind of, you know, catches you in something, or being stuck in a, like, for once, you know, there's not many people that are bigger than I, like, you know,
Right.
both of y'all know this. It's not there's not a lot, but like, you know, having a huge blue belt like sit on me almost, like that is like, holy shit, you know, like, even though technically I should be better than him, there's still something to be said about being put in a position like that, or, you know, and then not really trying to hurt yourself just to prove that you can beat up the blue belt.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and you know what's interesting too, and something I've started to pick up on here, I wish I would have picked up on much earlier in the game too, is I kind of go into training now with a more narrowed focus on what I'm trying to work on. And so I just keep kind of rolling back to those positions to keep trying to isolate and perfect a certain aspect of my game. And so by default, if it's something I'm trying to improve, there's flaws in it. And if I get caught, sometimes my guard gets passed by a blue belt. Sometimes I get submitted by a purple belt or brown belt, because I'm purposely putting myself in a position to learn on a specific piece, whereas they're coming at it with the purpose of winning the match, you know?
Right.
And so and for when I get tapped, I'm just like, okay, whatever, you know, that didn't work. Let me fix it. Let me go back to that position again and figure out what I did wrong, you know? And so it's just kind of interesting when you look at that and the different mentalities. And I wish that when I was a blue belt or a purple belt, looking at that next belt rank, I wish that I would have realized that in reality, your progress is so much faster when you're looking at it in that linear fashion. Like, let me work on this particular guard pass over and over and over again. It doesn't matter how many times I get swept and submitted as a result. I just got to keep working it, you know?
Totally. It's like when I got my brown belt, I think I spent 3 months in butterfly guard, and now everybody's like, you have a really good butterfly guard. I'm like, dude, you have no idea how many times I got smashed in butterfly guard and how many hours people spend mangling my legs in order for me to get good at this shit. Like, it was so... Wait, can I swear? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because, like, it's... I don't want you guys to go back to edit if that's not...
No. You can... Within reason, you can say almost anything on this podcast.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a train outside.
It's fine.
Yeah, how about here, I'll put your mind at ease. Holy fuck, that train was loud.
Yeah, so it's crazy to, like... Dang, what was I on? Like... And people are like, sometimes you do need to be very hyper-focused in your game in order to get better at that one aspect. And then in a year, people are like, man, you're really good at that. You're like, yeah, it takes sacrifice and hone in on focus to get that right sometimes.
That's understandable. So there's a lot of crossover. At least that's what I kind of see with you, between your jiu-jitsu, which is amazing, and your beer knowledge. How did you get started? Like, I don't know. I kind of take it as like black belt in jiu-jitsu, black belt in beer as well. How did you get started, or just interested in beer in general? I mean, I'm interested in beer, but not in the sense of like being able to really break it down, like with like your processes and just kind of being involved in it.
I think after you do jiu-jitsu for long enough, like I did jiu-jitsu before I turned 21, so that was definitely the first passionate thing I've ever done in my life. But when you kind of start doing jiu-jitsu for a while, you develop a sense of martial arts to everything else that you're doing that you like to do.
Right.
Like photography for me is like, that's a martial art. Like it's a never ending learning process, just like maybe beer can be a never ending learning process. And if you just take those mentalities of like, you know, the martial artist mentality of mastery, then, and the way that you'll never master something because you're on the path of mastery, then that kind of applies to anything you're doing. And with beer, it's like, it's fun, there's community to it, so there's a lot of camaraderie, similar that you feel with like jiu-jitsu maybe, like especially a few years ago when like there was less than half the amount of breweries in Maine. The camaraderie was so tight because there was nobody in Maine who was brewing beer. So at the time, like if you're a brewer, it's like you knew everybody who was a brewer, and that was, you know, the way it was. And now there's 160 breweries in Maine, so there's quite a bit more. But It's kind of like, you know, if you're going to start a gym or you're going to start a brewery, probably aren't going to make a lot of money right away. You probably really love what you're doing. So there's a lot of, you know, compassionate and really passionate people in both industries, and I think there's a lot of crossover with that.
What do you find with being involved in the beer brewing community? Kind of the opportunities for travel. Like I saw you went to Iceland for the what was it, for one of the beer conventions they had out there, or just, you know, showing off a lot of stuff. And do you find it kind of, like you said, the mastery of it? It's always a process to become a master with it. Like, is it still like getting the travel? Is it learning about the beer itself, kind of understanding like how it's made? Like, what keeps bringing you back to it, possibly besides community and just all the brewers out there?
I think the people always bring me back to the industry. I think just like jiu-jitsu, like in class, I'm always like, you kind of disconnect yourself from the learning sometimes, and the people keep you coming to class. I mean, the technique and the you know, the endorphins you get from doing jiu-jitsu and how much of a learning process it is fun, but like, and everybody in class can be really cool sometimes, and they can become your best friends. And the industry, with the beer industry, I'll keep coming back to a brewery if they make mediocre beer, but they have really nice people who work there.
Right.
Or really good brewers that, you know, we hung out a couple times, and like, you know, the relationship to the people is more important to me than the relationship to the beverage.
Right.
And I guess that's what keeps me going back to the industry. But when it comes to traveling, I mean, that was super fun. You talked about Iceland. That was 2017. The Maine Brewers Guild created this big 40-foot shipping container, big beer box thing called the Maine Beer Box, with like 80 or 78 individual taps on one side.
Wow. Oh my God.
It's crazy. And what they'll do is they'll fill it with Maine beer, and since it's a refrigerated shipping container, they can ship it anywhere in the world. So they'll ship these beers to, you know, Maine beers, to different countries, one different country a year, and set up in that country and do a beer fest of just Maine beers in that country. And then in exchange, that country will then put their beers in the box and bring them back to us. So then we kind of get this international exchange program of craft beer, essentially. And it's really cool to learn about different countries' beers and what they do, their style, and how they are in the craft brewing world for them.
That's pretty amazing. That's an amazing concept.
It's really fun.
Never heard of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like that first year was Iceland in 2017, and I followed the Brewers Guild and was a photographer for the creation of the box and for the beer fest when we were over there in Iceland. And it got me getting to know the beer scene in Iceland and how passionate they were, even though, you know, Iceland is a country the size of Maine, but with a quarter of its population, essentially.
Yeah, it was. I was going to say it was really interesting going out there, and there are quite a bit of different beers you can try out there. It actually surprised me. Like you said, a country the size of Maine with a quarter of the population, but
yeah, and you think of Maine, you're like, there's not many people there to begin with. So imagine there was a quarter of those people, or half of Vermont, if you want to think about it like that.
We have another idea then, Rob. Something else we need to do. We need to take a page out of his book with the Maine beer box, and we need to make a jiu-jitsu box and just put, like, you know, 75 of this country's best grapplers in a box, and just send them overseas to kick their asses, and then they can send 75 of their jiu-jitsu people in a box over this way.
I feel like there's some human rights violations that might go down with that, putting people in a box and shit. Maybe,
or some exchange program where maybe it's every year you do like a big fest in the summer somewhere in America, and then you exchange with another country, but then America goes to that country and that country comes to us, maybe. Or
but see, that's too nice and logical and peaceful. I was thinking more on the, you know, verge of like the Trojan horse kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
You just open up the box and Andre Galvao just pops out and just grabs the first person, just rips his arm off or something because he's been stuck in a Connex for 20 days. He's just super fucking angry. Just kills the first person he sees.
Everybody's yelling belch and stabilize the position. And like, it's a box full of Brazilians yelling different things.
I think you're onto something, Randy, but we got to kind of like, it's more of like weaponized jiu-jitsu than it is like just a friendly exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, his idea was obviously better. I'm just saying. Yeah.
So we know that Alexei is up there in Maine doing jiu-jitsu and stuff. How do you get to travel any for jiu-jitsu just itself, like going down to Boston, obviously, to see Dedeco and the crew down there, or any of the other places?
I don't think I've traveled. Actually, no. Last year I did travel for jiu-jitsu specifically. I had a bunch of friends who I've known for a while. One of them is Chris Shea, and now he works for Dorchester Brewing, but he's a blue belt at Kimura in Boston.
Nice.
And he was like, hey, why don't we visit the Kimura home base in, where is it? Right outside, no, it's not. It's like 3 hours from Orlando. I can't remember. Boca. We were in Boca Raton.
Oh, okay, cool. Very cool.
And with Gene Kleber and everybody else over there. And basically he goes, yeah, let's just do a 3-day weekend somewhere warm. And bring, one of our brown belts, Brad, and like go down there and just have fun for a 3-day weekend. We'll go to a couple breweries because he works at a brewery, and we'll train at Gene's and like go to the beach. And I go, yeah, let's do it. And like flights were cheap, and basically shared a big apartment with Airbnb, and it was like not that much overhead to have like a 3-day weekend while it was pretty cold up here.
That's really cool, man.
But that was really the first time and the only time I've traveled for jiu-jitsu. Every other time has been like I'm traveling for something else, and then I look for a gym locally.
Yeah, no worries there. Just kind of like, oh, I'm heading out here for this work. And yeah, I've done that as well. Just kind of like, is there anything good to train at, or anywhere good to train while I'm here?
Yeah, right.
So with doing brewing, or working with beer, doing jiu-jitsu, are you working towards anything maybe on the beer side, towards like mastery? I know there's like, what is it, Cicerone program? It was something I looked into.
Yeah, there is a program similar to a sommelier if you're a wine expert. That is called a Cicerone. I think it can become as far as a level 4, I want to say.
Right.
That I'm not entirely sure if that's the highest level. I believe it is. I know 1, 2, and 3 is an achievable level. And level 4 is, I believe, one of those levels where like not a ton of people in this world are level 4s. I think it's like less than 20 or something.
Holy shit.
But I don't know. And Cicerone is not the be-all, end-all of being an expert in brewing. I mean, probably most brewers aren't Cicerones, but the first level of Cicerone is called beer serving, so that's more in the expertise and knowledge of like if you're working in a beer bar, the different maybe temperatures you're pouring and the pressures in the tap systems, and differentiating between the different styles that you can tell people if, say, some new beer comes on tap and you're like reading the description, you can kind of be knowledgeable about that beer without trying it, or with just the vocabulary of somebody's like, oh, I like something hoppy. You're like, oh, great, we just have the new triple dry hop beer from Bissell Brothers on tap. Looks like they have these hops into it. And so like you already know that knowledge, at least in level 1, so like that sort of comes into the basic play. And then level 2 is more of like more robust version of that. That's definitely more respected, I guess.
All right.
Like I think a really big beer nerd can probably get level 1 if they studied for a little bit, but didn't have to strain themselves too much. And then level 2 might take a lot of studying to get.
That's
pretty cool. That's pretty cool they have that for beer. I didn't know they had that for beer. I've heard of the sommelier. I never heard of the one for the beer. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And again, most brewers are, you have brewers who've been brewing for 30 plus years, 50 plus years, and they probably aren't Cicerone certified because for them, they they're a brewer. You know, they've been doing it for so long. They kind of do have a lot of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the be-all end-all of certifications, but it is good to have, and it's good to kind of put by your name, perhaps, if you're somebody who gets hired to do things.
I was going to say, that kind of sounds almost like, you know, there's a lot of people out there who are very, like, high-level black belts, compete and stuff, but then there are also black belts who are just absolute monsters, but nobody knows about because they don't go, like, because they just don't go out there and hit, like, IBJJF or anything like that. I feel like that might be kind of similar, just, oh, yeah, this guy doesn't have he's not a Cicerone, but he's been a brewer for, like you said, 30-something years. He knows his shit.
Yeah.
And then you got, like, this random guy who's, like, training out in Hawaii, you know, just all he does is surf and do jiu-jitsu and work his day job, and then you pair him up with somebody and he can absolutely just manhandle him, no problem.
Dude, we got killers in our gym that are like, you know, they're a little bit older and they don't want to compete.
Yeah.
You know, they're not looking to cut some, you know, rip somebody's head off in a tournament. So they're like, whatever. And then you grapple with them. You're like, dude, that guy was strong. That guy was throwing me across the mat. And it's like, does he compete ever? And you're like, no, he's just never stepped on a mat in IBJJF. And they're like, what? Like, it's pretty preposterous how, like, you can have a really good brown belt in the gym that, like, wrecks everybody. That, like, you know,
but never
like,
competes. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, nobody's ever heard of him. So.
Well, we got in our gym a guy we call Buddy. His name's Dan, and he's been around for a long time. I think he's a 3 or 4 stripe brown belt, and I mean, that guy is exactly what you're talking about. He doesn't compete, but that guy will put the hurting on a lot of people that do. You know, he's just been around for so long. His knowledge, his skills, he's got his own game that he plays extremely well. You know, he gives fits to black belts that compete. It's just the way it is. I mean, competition's just, you know, it is for some people and it's not for others. So
for sure, yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, then you got these guys too that don't even do jiu-jitsu. You got people that have been catch wrestling for 15, 20, 30 years too that you got to watch out for. They don't even have a belt around their waist. You know? I know.
Yeah, we have a blue belt named John Dupree that trains with us sometimes. He coaches the USM wrestling team.
Oh yeah.
he is one, and he's a legit blue belt. Like, he knows quite a bit of technique. So it's not like, you know, he wrecked everybody for 6 months and then got a blue belt. Like, you know, Lexi doesn't give those belts away. So it's one of those moments where you're like, oh, he's a super high decorated level wrestler, but also has a blue belt knowledge of jiu-jitsu. And if he keeps going, he just keeps hybriding those two things together, and he becomes this unstoppable force of, like, all of a sudden he starts scrambling and his wrestling snaps in to place, and you're like, oh no. And it's just like that black hole just keeps getting smaller and smaller of, like, doom.
Well, in my opinion, if you take a really high-level wrestler like that and you give him some good defense, I think high-level belts are going to have a hard time submitting you, you know? Because the big flaw with a wrestler versus a jiu-jitsu guy in the jiu-jitsu atmosphere is the fact that the wrestler doesn't really have any finishes, doesn't have any submissions. And so it kind of becomes a matter of time for that jiu-jitsu guy to kind of spin that web, you know, and then catch somebody. And the wrestler has outstanding conditioning and control and has some leverage and position on the ground, but without a submission, you can't really finish the fight. And so it's just, you know, but you add some jiu-jitsu knowledge and some defense, and I think that wrestling platform is very strong. You can be very, very tough with just that knowledge alone. So
there was I'm sorry.
And they got a gas tank too. They got a gas tank that can go forever.
Oh God, yeah. It's so frustrating, man.
Yeah, who was that? Hey Randy, who was that guy? I think he was there that night that the last time I came through. It was a no-gi class, and Brad was like, "Yeah, Rob, go ahead and roll with these guys, big guys." And it just, what level wrestling was he? He was like going for the Olympic trials or something.
You're talking about, let me pull up his name on Facebook so I don't butcher it. Great guy, John Wechter.
Yeah, dude, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, he's a national champ. He won the national. So and at heavyweight, and at Michigan State, no less.
Oh my
Michigan State.
Dude, that's why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you're talking about, very, very, very legit. You know, comes from a very strong pedigree and a national champ. And yeah, he was talking about. I think he's decided not to, but I think he was still kind of has the bug in him to compete a little bit, and was looking at trying to make qualify for the Olympics or something like that. So, but the guy's a beast. I mean, he really, He really is.
Brad made me stand with him. Not made me. He's like,
Oh,
go stand
gosh.
with him. And I was excited when I like fell on my butt and didn't get, and could scramble back up. Like I was excited about that.
He is
like,
a monster. He's built like a brick shit house too.
Yeah.
So the one day we had open mat, and he comes up there, and he got there a little bit later than I think he realized, and everybody was kind of finishing up. Like I was sitting on the sidelines, kind of watching at that point. Already gotten cold, so my rule is once I get cold, I don't roll again because I always get hurt when I do that. So, I was already kind of cold, and he was like, "Man, I was looking to get a couple more rounds," and I was like, "Well," I said, "I'm not breaking my own rule because I'll get hurt and then I'll miss 2 months of training."
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Well, how about we just hand fight a little bit?" And I'm like, "All right, whatever." Well, this guy grabs onto me. His first, he grabs like a collar tie and grabs like my tricep on the other arm, and immediately, just based on his grip and position, I'm like, this guy knows some stuff I definitely don't know.
Yeah.
There's an immediate feel of terror when some people grab onto you in jiu-jitsu, and even if you know stuff, it's like they'll grab onto you and you're like, okay, yeah, great. Like I can kind of hang, and then there's this feeling. It's almost like maybe it's a chi blast they're doing that you don't know about, but it's like they grab onto you and you're like, oh no, your mind just instantly goes, oh no.
Oh yeah.
It's this feel of dread. Yeah. It's terrible.
I've had that, and it carries over into the striking arts too, because I remember my first experience ever kickboxing with Brandon Garner over in Raleigh.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it was a friendly match, a friendly exchange. We were just sparring, and he could have absolutely mangled me if he wanted to, but even still, just when we started sparring, and the first time I actually landed a shot, and he kind of upped his game a little bit more, and all of a sudden you were just like, I don't even know where this guy is right now. He was cutting angles. It was kind of like Top Gun. They're like, where'd he go? Where did who go?
Yeah, he went inverted. Sorry, Top Gun
it's
reference, right?
Oh yeah.
I love Top Gun. Yeah.
All about
But I was just, you definitely know, and that's one of my favorite things about combat sports or martial arts is that immediate knowledge, just the respect, the different levels in this game that there are. And I imagine it's the same in beer. Just when you look at people that brew at home, and then you get the higher levels. Like Dogfish had their story about how they started and kind of climbed up the ladder. So I'm sure it carries right over into the beer industry too. So.
I mean, I'm at Bissell Brothers right now talking to you guys in Portland, Maine, and this brewery started at another location very, very much smaller than they are now. And that was only 5-6 years ago, maybe. And now they have 2 locations. One is gigantic in Portland that I've seen definitely 1,000 people wait in line for a beer release at this brewery in the past. I'm not sure if that's happened anytime in the last year. I'm sure it has, but literally there was one, I think it was the first Swiss release, and it may have been in the other facility, and it was so many people in line. It was like, oh my goodness, this is for one brewery. I can't believe this.
That's really cool that people are lining up to try it out. What we need to do is we need to get Ben down here so we can have him, have him come through all the breweries out here, because believe it or not, we actually have quite a few in just this little, even Fuquay, where I'm from, is this kind of podunk redneck town, or maybe not anymore, but there's 6 or 7 out there just in the small town.
Oh yeah, they're blowing up. I mean, you've got North Carolina has secretly and quietly become a pretty awesome area for both beer and jiu-jitsu, honestly. And I don't even know how many breweries there are in this area now. I'd have to look it up, because you've got the mainstays that kind of started early, like Holly Springs has Carolina Brewing Company. That's one of the oldest brewing companies in the country.
Yeah.
But then you've got a lot of other ones that have opened up since. I mean, in Holly Springs, Bombshell, Mason Jar, what's the other one over there? There's so many. And then in Fuquay, you got Fainting Goat,
Vicious
Aviator.
Fishes.
Aviator's kind of the big one that's been there the longest. That's taken over downtown Fuquay completely. Yeah, Vicious Fishes, you're right. Yeah, they're just popping up everywhere. So.
Yeah, I mean, Portland by itself has, I think, 20 breweries in the city limits.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That was, I will say, Ben, whenever we went to visit Ben. Now it's 2 years in a row I've done this. Ben has just been like, yeah, we're going to go here. We're going to try this out. We're going to try this out. I'm like, oh, my God. There's beer everywhere, and it's amazing.
Love it.
It was so good.
I mean, I basically take you guys to my friends' places, so it's kind of a biased thing, but like, they make good stuff, you know? They totally make great stuff.
No, you were absolutely right. I didn't think I had a single bad beer while I was out there. But
I mean, and beer is so subjective. Like, when I started my beer blog, not every beer is for everybody. You know, not everybody likes an IPA, and not everybody likes a stout. So at the end of the day, you know, if I'm writing a blog post, I don't care. I don't want people to think, like, this is my opinion. Sometimes my opinion is subjective, and maybe you don't like what I have to taste, you know, maybe my tastes are different than yours. So I try to tell the story behind the beer and the people more than how the beer tastes and if I like it.
right.
Well, I'll say right now, I think that the direct carryover between jiu-jitsu and beer is that the darker, the better, as far as belt color and beer.
Yeah, okay. That's totally, that's viable. I can see that.
For me, a good beer is after a training class and you can drink it and not throw up. That's a good beer for me.
Yes, that's a good rule of thumb right there.
That kind of rules out Imperial Stouts, though.
Oh, man.
I think that, yeah.
No, those are good. Don't get me wrong. Those are very good beers. But just after having a bunch of people try to rip my head off, I'd be like, oh, man, let me drink a stout and just have it just.
No, you know what my favorite style beer is right now at the moment, because you know how it is. It kind of changes a little bit based on season and taste and all that.
Yeah.
But right now, my favorite style beer I feel like is kind of one that has started to fade, and it makes me sad. And that is a good nut brown ale.
Nut browns are great. They're underrated and kind of old school in style nowadays because nobody's really making them. But nut browns are great, man. I mean, Samuel Smith's up in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
Classic style, probably true to style if you had to mimic it to a point, but yeah, everybody's favorite style of beers, they change. I don't even think for me it's the season, it's just from my mood.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so before we head out, Ben, could you please plug where we can find you, the work you do, anything?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me on again. But if you want to find me, my website is activebeergeek.com. All of my social media for beer-related things is Active Beer Geek. Nice. I just separated my Instagram account, so basically, if I were to post anything jiu-jitsu-wise or anything else, like a headshot session, being a photographer, in my beer account, people stopped kind of caring about those, and I got like maybe 10 likes. So I separated my beer and my anything but. So Benmore Media is my Instagram account that's more jiu-jitsu and just regular in general photography based. And then anything beer related is Active Beer Geek on Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks again, man. Yeah, no, you should, man. The pictures are amazing. It's really he does awesome work, man. You really do need to check it out.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. So, we do appreciate you coming on, man, especially talking about beer and jiu-jitsu, the combination of the two. And, you know, Ben is just a fantastic person. I really am so happy you were able to come on, man. So, thanks again.
Oh, thank you for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Anytime. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Strap and Roll Soap Company, Tape Armor, and Rolls Gear. And you can find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
Catch you guys next time.